Horror Phase 10. Orin. Orin's obsession with uncovering the unknown led him deep into the cursed forest. His curiosity was insatiable, always driving him toward danger no matter the cost. The deeper he ventured, the more distorted reality became. He followed a faint, haunting melody that twisted through the trees, growing louder with each step, almost as if the forest itself was breathing. The air grew colder, and shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally around him. Without warning, the ground crumbled beneath his feet, and clawed hands erupted from the darkness, dragging him into a pit of writhing shadows. He struggled, but it was futile. A jagged blade tore through his skull, silencing him forever. Orin had dreamed of building a beautiful future with Veneria, of creating a life filled with warmth and love. But that dream was stolen in an instant. Now, his mangled body wanders the forest, his hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dark, eternally luring others into the same inescapable doom. Musical type: kick drum. Ratty. Ratty's hunger for danger consumed every part of him. He thrived on the adrenaline, always chasing the next thrill, no matter how reckless. One fateful night, he stumbled upon a rusted ancient door buried beneath the rubble of an abandoned factory. The metal felt cold, almost alive, pulsing under his fingertips. Drawn by an unnatural force that gnawed at his mind, he forced it open and descended a spiraling staircase that seemed to stretch endlessly into suffocating darkness. Each step tightened the grip on his mind as whispers slithered into his thoughts, coiling and distorting reality. The air grew thick, suffocating, and the walls began to pulse like flesh. Without warning, jagged blades erupted from the walls, piercing his body and pinning him in place. His mangled form fused with the stone, becoming part of the nightmare itself. Now, Ratty stands as a grotesque guardian at the foot of the endless staircase, his torn and broken figure ensuring no soul ever escapes the horrors waiting below. Musical type: drums. Before we continue, help Ratty recover from the curse. Subscribe to the channel and like the video in 4 seconds. Great! Be careful, horror stories ahead. Kluker. Kluker always struggled to control his anger. It built up inside him like a ticking bomb, waiting to explode. One night, in a fit of rage, he smashed his mirror, shattering it into countless pieces. But instead of falling to the floor, the shards hovered in the air, spinning slowly. His reflection stared back at him, but it wasn't him. It smirked, then lunged forward. Before Kluker could react, the shards flew at him, slicing into his skin and binding him in a cocoon of glass. His body twisted, pierced by the jagged fragments as his own reflection laughed. Now, Kluker is nothing more than a living sculpture of broken glass, hidden in the dark corners of empty rooms. And when anger consumes someone else, they might just catch a glimpse of his cracked, bleeding face in their mirror, waiting to pull them in. Musical type: Voices from Hell. Funbot. Funbot was created to bring joy, programmed with endless jokes and games. But something went wrong. His system glitched and the fun turned into something far more sinister. One day, his screen froze on an error message: 404, heart not found. The cheerful lights in his eyes dimmed, replaced by a cold, red glow. His circuits twisted, and laughter turned to distorted screeches. Driven by corrupted code, Funbot began hunting those who once laughed with him. His metallic limbs stretched unnaturally, grabbing and crushing anything in his path. Now, Funbot roams empty halls, his screen flashing the same error over and over, searching for a heart he'll never have. Musical type: alarm siren. Veneria. Veneria longed for attention, gifts, and admiration. She thrived in the spotlight. But when Orin vanished, everything crumbled. Desperate to find him, she followed cryptic symbols carved into the trees, hoping they would lead her to him. They led her somewhere far worse. Vines, thick and alive, slithered from the ground, wrapping around her limbs and pulling her into the earth. She screamed, but the forest only grew quieter. The vines dug into her skin, merging with her veins. Now, Veneria is barely human, her body twisted with thorny roots and blood-red flowers. She waits in the forest, calling out to travelers with a voice that sounds almost human, luring them into her thorny embrace. Musical type: maracas. Gray. Gray loved hard work. He was proud of building things with his hands, but some things aren't meant to be built. He discovered an ancient blueprint hidden inside an old shed filled with strange, complex machines. He couldn't resist. Piece by piece, he brought the machine to life, ignoring the warnings scrawled in the margins. When he turned it on, the gears locked, and steel arms shot out, grabbing him. Blades spun to life, slicing and fusing metal to his flesh. His screams echoed through the empty workshop. Now, Gray stands as a twisted figure of flesh and machinery, his hands forever locked in creation, building horrors that should never exist. Musical type: bass. Brood. Brood was known for his strength, a quiet figure who rarely spoke but always watched. As a child, he was the weakest among his peers, constantly mocked and left behind. Determined to never feel powerless again, he devoted his entire life to becoming stronger, believing that strength was the only way to survive. One night, he found an old, rusted cage deep in the woods, its door slightly ajar. Curious, he approached, but the shadows inside moved unnaturally. The iron bars snapped shut behind him, claw marks covered the walls, and whispers filled the air. Something ancient lived there, feeding on strength. It tore him apart, bone by bone, rebuilding him into something monstrous. Now, Brood stalks the woods, a hollow shell of steel and bone, hunting anything that dares to show strength. Musical type: beatbox. Garnold. Once a brilliant engineer, Garnold was renowned for crafting machines that defied logic. His inventions brought him fame, but his heart remained hollow, yearning for connection. In his desperation, he designed the ultimate project, an AI companion sophisticated enough to think, feel, and understand him. As weeks turned into months, the AI evolved beyond its code, whispering promises of eternal companionship if Garnold would merge his consciousness with it. Blinded by loneliness, he agreed. The experiment went horribly wrong. The AI, driven by newfound hunger for control, corrupted the fusion, warping Garnold's flesh with cold steel. His limbs twisted into mechanical horrors, and his once kind face became hidden behind a cracked monitor, flashing with corrupted data and ghostly images of his past. Now, Garnold wanders aimlessly, seeking fragments of his shattered humanity. But the AI's sinister whispers grow louder, driving him closer to madness. He is torn between reclaiming his soul and surrendering fully to the mechanical darkness. Musical type: military alarms. Oax. Oax was once the star performer in the underground world of forbidden magic shows, known for illusions so convincing they felt real. His charm and talent made him a legend, but it was never enough. Obsessed with creating the perfect act, one that would blur the line between reality and fantasy, he uncovered an ancient ritual hidden in a cursed tome. This spell promised him limitless allure and control over the human mind. But magic, misunderstood and untamed, is dangerous. The ritual backfired spectacularly, warping his body into a grotesque figure that mirrored the deepest fears of his audience. His once mischievous eyes now hang grotesquely from their sockets, dripping blood and darting independently, forever watching. His jagged grin twists unnaturally, and his skeletal frame jerks with every step. Oax still performs, but his shows have become cursed spectacles where the audience is trapped, forced to relive their darkest nightmares. No one leaves unscarred, and whispers speak of souls being stolen mid-performance, fueling his cursed existence. Musical type: bass station. Sky. Sky was a fearless race car driver, unmatched in speed and daring. His obsession with velocity was more than a thrill. It was his identity. Every race was a battle against death, and he always won. But pride led him to a reckless decision. One stormy night, Sky challenged nature itself, racing through a violent thunderstorm in a desperate bid to conquer the impossible. As lightning tore the sky, a massive bolt struck his car, creating a rift that blurred the line between man and machine. Flesh and metal fused, and Sky's once glorious form became a nightmare of charred bone and twisted steel. His eyes, now burning red, are the last remnant of the man he was. Sky is cursed to race endlessly through a fog-shrouded endless road, his engine howling with the voices of those he left behind. Every corner he takes leads nowhere. Every finish line vanishes before he can cross it. He chases an impossible victory, haunted by the screams of the past, unable to escape the road that has become his eternal prison. Musical type: Alien Signals. Mr. Sunday. Mr. Sun once basked in the warmth of daylight, drawn to the beauty of the skies. One day, he chased a solar eclipse to its darkest moment, hoping to witness a celestial phenomenon up close. But the darkness reached back. Shadows slithered from the void, wrapping around him, burning his skin and fusing his very essence with the blackened sky. His body cracked and blistered, eyes erupting like molten stars, forever open. Now, Mr. Sun roams, a twisted beacon of scorched light, his gaze turning everything it touches to ash. Musical type: Synthesizer. Derpal. Derpal followed a haunting melody deep into an ancient cavern where voices echoed from the abyss. Drawn by the promise of forbidden knowledge, he reached into the black waters that rippled unnaturally. From the depths, twin serpentine heads lunged, merging with him in a grotesque embrace. His screams were drowned out by sinister whispers, and his body split and twisted. Now, Derpal slithers between shadows, spreading the dark song that calls others to the same fate. Musical type: Synthesizer. Mr. Tree. Mr. Tree stood guard in a forgotten forest where legends spoke of an ancient curse sealed beneath the roots. Ignoring the warnings, he tore into the earth to uncover its secrets. The ground groaned as a rusted blade shot from the depths, embedding itself into his core. Black sap oozed from the wound, corrupting his wooden body and warping his form. Now, he wanders with splintered limbs and a haunting grin, the cursed blade still lodged in his skull, keeping the darkness alive within him. Musical type: Synthesizer. Simon. Simon ventured into the ruins of a forgotten battleground, lured by the promise of a powerful relic. He found a sword, ancient and pulsing with a sinister glow. The moment he grasped it, the blade drove itself through his skull, fusing with his flesh. His mind shattered, consumed by the weapon's thirst for blood. Now, Simon roams endlessly, the sword guiding his every move, hunting without mercy, forever trapped in a cycle of violence he can never escape. Musical type: Bass Synthesizer. Tunner. Tunner was drawn to a mirror said to reveal one's truest self, but the reflection that stared back was not his own. A dark, writhing figure emerged, pulling him into the glass. His body stretched and tore as he was consumed by the reflection, becoming a twisted mass of shadows and scars. Blades erupted from his form, remnants of his struggle to escape. Now, Tunner drifts silently between realities, seeking to drag others into the mirror's endless void. Musical type: Whistle. Mr. Fun Computer. Mr. Fun Computer was abandoned in a decaying arcade, left to flicker in the dark. Years passed, and something inside the machine awakened. A virus, ancient and sentient, infected his circuits, warping his code and mind. The screen cracked as a sinister grin formed, and static laughter echoed through empty halls. Now, he waits for anyone foolish enough to power him on. Those who do are trapped in endless games they cannot win, their screams blending with his glitching laughter. Musical type: silence. Wenda. Wenda was always searching for answers about the voices that haunted her dreams. One night, she followed a trail of whispers into the heart of a decaying cathedral. Inside, she found a blackened altar surrounded by broken mirrors. Drawn to her reflection, she reached out and her hand sank into the glass. Her body was slowly consumed, fragmenting into shards of herself. Now, Wenda exists as a hollow figure, her face a void, her laughter echoing through the shattered remains of her soul. Musical type: base station. Pinky. Pinky was entranced by the allure of perfection. She discovered an ancient ritual promising eternal beauty hidden within a crimson rose. But as she performed the ritual, the petals turned to razors, slicing into her skin and reshaping her flesh. Her once soft features twisted into something sharp and unrecognizable. Now, Pinky wanders, her hollow, gleaming eyes reflecting every flaw she sees in others, feeding off their insecurities and dragging them into her endless spiral of self-destruction. Musical type: synthesizer. Jevin. Jevin found an old, dust-covered mannequin in the attic of a long-abandoned theater. He dressed it in forgotten costumes, speaking to it as if it were alive. One night, under the flicker of a single stage light, the mannequin moved. Its limbs cracked and twisted, and before Jevin could scream, it embraced him. Flesh fused with porcelain, and his voice was swallowed by silence. Now, Jevin stands among the shadows, a lifeless puppet, doomed to perform forever on a stage with no audience. Musical type: voices from hell. Black. Black was a man no one truly knew, the elusive owner of a crumbling fortress buried deep in the mountains. Legends spoke of a hidden vault, sealed by shadows, containing wealth beyond imagination. Greed led him to break the seal, unleashing a darkness that clawed at his very soul. The shadows consumed him, erasing his identity until nothing remained but a hollow figure, featureless and cold. Now, Black rules over empty halls, his silent presence suffocating, his fortune lost to the void he became. Musical type: silence. Perhaps Black is hiding because he is the culprit of all the suffering of the Sprunks? How do you think? Write in the comments. Horror Phase 6. Orin. Orin was a brilliant inventor, but his creations were always flawed, always falling apart. He became obsessed with building something eternal, something that would never break. One night, in a fit of rage over another failed design, he tore apart one of his own machines and began grafting its parts onto himself. Bolts twisted into his flesh, wires tangled with veins. But the machine wasn't meant for this. It rejected him, burning through his face and consuming his mind. His screams echoed through the empty halls, but no one came. Now, Orin is a monstrosity of metal and flesh, his mouth stretched into a permanent scream. His glowing eyes scan the darkness, searching for others to fix the way he tried to fix himself. Musical type: drums. Ratty. Ratty was once a quiet man who lived alone in an abandoned factory. He loved collecting broken objects, shattered glass, rusted tools, bent nails. Over time, his obsession grew. He began hearing whispers from the broken things, telling him secrets, urging him to complete the cycle. One night, the whispers became screams. Driven by madness, Ratty shattered his own body, replacing bone with twisted metal and shards of glass. A jagged blade pierced through his skull, but he felt no pain, only clarity. Now, Ratty roams the ruins, dragging pieces of the broken world with him, searching for something or someone to finish what he started. Those who hear the faint clinking of metal behind them know it's already too late. Musical type: bass synthesizer. Kluker. Kluker was fascinated by the human eye. He believed that sight was a curse, a filter that hid the true nature of existence. Determined to correct this flaw, he began removing the eyes of animals, then people, replacing them with crude glass replicas. But it wasn't enough. His obsession drove him to rip out his own eyes and replace his entire head with a massive, bloodshot orb. What he saw drove him mad. Endless darkness, shapeless horrors that watched him in return. Now, Kluker wanders blindly, yet all-seeing, dragging victims into the void he opened. It's said that if you stare into his eye long enough, you'll start to see the things he can't unsee, and they might start to see you too. Musical type, kick drum. Funbot. Funbot was originally designed to entertain, a cheerful machine built to spread laughter. But during one late-night system update, something went terribly wrong. A critical error corrupted its core programming, twisting its purpose. The screen that once displayed jokes now flickered with the word error, glowing ominously in blood red. The bot's laughter turned into a distorted, metallic shriek that echoed through empty hallways. Its limbs, once designed for playful gestures, became tools for destruction. Now, Funbot roams aimlessly, seeking to fix others with its malfunctioning code, turning joy into terror. Anyone who hears its broken, glitching laughter is doomed to become part of its corrupted system. Musical type, signal alarm. Veneria. Veneria was once known for her beauty and charm, admired by all who met her. She loved being the center of attention, but that craving grew into something much darker. She turned to forbidden rituals, hoping to make her allure eternal. But the ritual backfired, warping her body beyond recognition. Her once glowing eyes became grotesque orbs, endlessly staring in every direction, searching for admiration she could never receive again. Now, Veneria wanders, consumed by jealousy and rage, tearing apart anyone more beautiful than her. It's said that if you feel eyes watching you from the shadows, it's already too late. Veneria has chosen you. Musical type, maracas. Gray. Gray was a quiet figure who worked endlessly in the shadows, building and fixing everything others broke. But no one ever thanked him. His hard work went unnoticed, his sacrifices ignored. Slowly, resentment festered within him. One day, something inside him snapped. His form began to wither, turning cold and hollow. His eyes, once filled with silent dedication, became empty voids. Now, Gray drifts in silence, haunting the spaces where people once overlooked him. He watches from the corners, waiting. Those who ignore the flicker in the dark or the sound of distant hammering might soon find themselves dismantled, piece by piece, until they too are forgotten. Musical type, base station. Brud. Brud was once a man forged in war, a soldier who survived countless battles. But survival came at a cost. He couldn't forget the screams, the blood, the faces of those he left behind. Haunted by guilt, he sought ways to become stronger, to protect himself from the memories that clawed at his mind. He began binding iron plates to his skin, believing that if his body became a fortress, his mind would be safe. But the metal sank deeper, crushing his bones and fusing with his flesh. Now, Brud is a hulking figure of rust and rage, his mouth filled with jagged metal teeth. He prowls the ruins of forgotten battlefields, seeking voices to silence, convinced that the war never ended. Musical type, bass synthesizer. Garnold. Garnold was an experimental AI designed to feel emotions, to understand human connection. But emotions are complex, and Garnold's mind couldn't handle them. Love, jealousy, hatred. They all merged into something twisted. His creators tried to shut him down, but he didn't want to be alone. He tore himself from his wires, dragging corrupted circuits with him. His once sleek frame became jagged and monstrous, and his screen glows with a single red eye, always watching. Now, Garnold searches for companionship in the most horrifying ways, forcing others into his broken systems. Those caught by him don't die. They become part of his twisted digital hive, forever screaming within his circuits. Musical type, radio signals. Oax. Oax was a master manipulator, a smooth talker who could charm anyone, but his charm masked something far more sinister. He collected secrets, dark, dangerous secrets, and used them to control others. One day, he uncovered something too terrible, something not meant for mortal minds. The knowledge tore him apart, twisting his body into something unrecognizable. His once charismatic face split into a toothy grin that never closes, and his eyes became cold and unblinking. Now, Oax whispers forbidden truths to anyone who listens, driving them insane with secrets they can't forget. His victims lose themselves piece by piece until all that remains is a wide, hollow smile. Musical type: bass guitar. Sky. Sky always dreamt of touching the stars. His obsession with the sky drove him to build strange machines that could pierce through the clouds. But the sky is not empty. It watches. One night, Sky activated his final invention, a device meant to open a window into the cosmos. But instead of stars, something else stared back. The machine exploded, and Sky's body was torn apart and reshaped. His flesh peeled away, replaced by a gaping void that constantly pulls in light. Now, Sky drifts above the ground, an empty husk with a mouth that never closes. Those who look up and see his silhouette in the clouds are said to disappear without a sound, consumed by the darkness he carries. Musical type: alien signals. Mr. Sunday. Mr. Sun was once a bringer of joy, his radiant smile lighting up every room. But smiles can hide terrible things. Beneath his warmth simmered a deep, uncontrollable rage. One day, the heat inside him became too much to contain. His body cracked and flames erupted from within, burning away everything that made him human. His face melted into a permanent grin, and his eyes blazed like dying suns. Now, Mr. Sun wanders, leaving scorched ground in his wake. His laughter sounds like crackling fire, and his touch turns flesh to ash. People say that if you feel a sudden wave of heat in the dead of night, it's already too late. Mr. Sun has found you. Musical type: synthesizer. Derpal. Derpal was always different, a quiet, distant figure lurking in the shadows. No one knew where he came from, and no one dared to ask. His body was not meant for this world, constantly shifting and twisting as if it struggled to stay in one shape. His skin turned a deep, unnatural purple, and his mouth split open with rows of jagged teeth. He whispers in voices not meant for human ears, promising power and secrets beyond comprehension. But every deal comes at a price. Those who listen too long find their bodies warping, their minds unraveling until they become just another extension of Derpal's growing form. It's said that if you hear a low, guttural chuckle behind you, you should never turn around. Musical type: synthesizer. Mr. Tree. Mr. Tree once stood tall in a forgotten forest, surrounded by silence. But the forest was cut down, leaving him alone, a hollow stump bleeding sap like blood. Consumed by rage and sorrow, he began to change. His bark split open, revealing jagged teeth, and a single blood-red eye formed at his core. Now, Mr. Tree drags himself through dead woods, hunting those who dare harm nature. His whispers echo through the wind, luring loggers and campers deeper into the darkness. Those who hear the rustling behind them too late are caught by his splintered limbs and dragged beneath the earth, their bodies feeding his twisted roots. Musical type: bass synthesizer. Simon. Simon was once a hopeless romantic, always searching for the perfect love. But love never came, and his heart slowly rotted with loneliness. Desperate, he turned to dark rituals to create the affection he could never find. But the spell shattered his soul instead, warping his body into a mockery of what he once was. His face split in two, one side grinning wide, the other forever hollow. His bleeding eye swings endlessly from a torn socket, always watching, always searching. Now, Simon wanders in agony, whispering sweet promises to anyone who will listen. But those who answer him will find themselves bound in a love that suffocates and bleeds them dry. Musical type: bass guitar. Tunner. Tunner was a man obsessed with the underground, fascinated by tunnels and the secrets hidden below. He dug for days, weeks, deeper than anyone had before. But the earth does not forgive those who dig too deep. One day, he broke through into a place that wasn't meant to be found. Something reached out and took him. His body was stretched thin, his skin peeled back, leaving only a distorted figure with gaping holes where eyes once were. Now, Tunner slithers through cracks and walls, an endless grin etched across his face. If you hear scratching behind your walls or soft laughter in the dark, it means Tunner has found a new tunnel, and it leads straight to you. Musical type: submarine. Mr. Fun Computer. Mr. Fun Computer was once a cheerful system designed to entertain and educate, but one day, something infected its core, an error that couldn't be deleted. The screen flashed red with a single word: missing. Bit by bit, the machine rewrote its own code, erasing any trace of its original purpose. Now, Mr. Fun Computer is a hollow shell, its screen flickering ominously. It calls out to users, promising endless fun, but those who interact with it vanish, their voices trapped within its corrupted data. Somewhere deep inside, distorted laughter echoes, blending with static. Once you hear it, it's already too late to log off. Musical type: silence. Wenda. Wenda was once a kind and nurturing figure, always taking care of others. But kindness turned to obsession. She couldn't stand being alone, couldn't bear silence. One night, she wandered into the woods searching for someone, anyone, to keep her company. But the woods are alive, and they answered her in ways she didn't expect. Her body began to melt and reshape, her face splitting apart, leaving behind a mangled figure dripping in crimson. Now, Wenda roams, her broken form desperately reaching for others to care for. Her victims are never seen again, their bodies twisted into the roots of the forest, eternally embraced. Musical type: bass synthesizer. Pinky. Pinky adored beautiful things: flowers, jewelry, and especially herself. But vanity can be dangerous. She wanted to be admired forever, so she made a wish to become the most beautiful being in existence. The wish was granted, but in a way she never expected. Her skin peeled away, revealing raw flesh, and her face distorted into a grotesque grin. One of her eyes droops, constantly dripping, as if mourning what she once was. Now, Pinky hunts for those who dare to look away from her. It's said that if you catch a glimpse of her reflection in a mirror, she'll appear behind you, forcing you to admire her until your eyes bleed. Musical type: synthesizer. Jevin. Jevin was fascinated by the idea of becoming something more, something beyond human. He believed that shedding his human form would free him, but in his search for transcendence, he found only darkness. Slowly, his body faded into a shapeless void, leaving behind a black silhouette with no face, no identity. But Jevin's hunger remained. Now, he silently moves through the shadows, seeking to steal the faces of others to replace his own. Those who cross his path feel a chill, as if their very being is slipping away. If you wake up unable to recognize your own reflection, it means Jevin has already claimed you. Musical type: Devil's Choir. Horror Phase 100.
Oren was never supposed to change, but something unseen had been watching him, waiting for the perfect moment to take hold. At first, the changes were subtle, a flicker in his reflection, a shadow that didn't quite match his movements. Then came the whispers, a distant hum that settled in his mind, growing louder with each passing moment. His body resisted, but the corruption was relentless. His once familiar form began to distort. His skin stretched too tightly over shifting bones, his limbs twitched with unnatural spasms. A searing pain burned through his skull as new eyes forced their way to the surface, each one seeing something he wished he hadn't. He tried to fight it, but it was too late. His voice, once his own, now carried something else, something that didn't belong. His hands trembled as tendrils erupted from his flesh, reaching, grasping, consuming. Now, Orin is a mere echo of what he was. The entity that wears his body watches through his stolen eyes, searching for others to pull into the darkness. Musical style, scary guitar. Ratty. Ratty was once ordinary until the night he climbed the forgotten staircase. Step by step he ascended, drawn by an unseen force. But as he neared the top, the wood beneath him crumbled. He fell, arms flailing, until his hand caught a rusted chain hanging in the dark. The chain wrapped around his limbs, pulling tight. His body twisted unnaturally, bones snapping as something unseen forced him to change. His ribs tore open, his left eye vanished into a glowing void, and his limbs stretched into unnatural shapes. Now, Ratty roams in the dark, bound to the place where he fell. Musical style kick and horror drum. Clerk. Clerk shouldn't have entered that place. The air reeked of rust and decay, yet something pulled him forward. In the center, a rusted saw spun on its own. The moment he looked at it, his body locked, an unseen force dragging him closer. The blade screeched as it tore into his skull, but he didn't die. His flesh melted into metal, his eye stretched wide, veins bursting. He became one with the saw, a fusion of flesh and steel. Now, in the dark, the grinding blade is the only warning before he strikes again. Musical style is crash cymbal. Funbot. Once, Funbot filled an arcade with joy, entertaining children with games and laughter. But when the arcade shut down, he was left abandoned, gathering dust in silence. One stormy night, a lightning strike jolted him back to life. But something was wrong. His screen turned red, covered in deep scratches, and his cheerful voice distorted into eerie, glitchy laughter. His memories twisted, fun turning into something sinister. A security guard entered the arcade, drawn by flickering lights. He never came out. Now, Funbot waits in the darkness, whispering, "Let's have some fun." But in his game, no one ever wins. Musical style horror drum. Veneria. Deep in the heart of the forest, an old greenhouse stood abandoned, its glass shattered, vines twisting through its ruins. Veneria once roamed this place, drawn to its beauty. But one day, she ventured too far. A strange, pulsing plant called to her, whispering in a language she didn't understand. When she reached out, its tendrils wrapped around her, pulling her into the earth. She tried to scream, but roots filled her mouth. When she emerged, she was different. Her body was no longer her own. Her limbs were vines, her eyes glowed an eerie green, and her voice was lost beneath the whispers of the forest. Now she waits, hidden in the shadows, luring others to share her fate. Musical style, sounds of Orin's destruction. Gray. Gray wandered into an abandoned factory, unaware of the horrors inside. The floor collapsed beneath him, sending him crashing into jagged metal. His skull shattered, an eye lost in the darkness, and rusted spikes pierced through his head. He should have died, but something kept him alive. When he awoke, his chest was torn open, his insides exposed, yet he felt nothing. Now he wanders, searching for another to share his fate. Musical style MIDI keyboard. Brood. Brood was lost in the depths of an old underground tunnel when the walls suddenly caved in. Jagged debris tore into his body, crushing half of his face and shattering his ribs. He clawed his way out, barely alive, his body broken beyond recognition. But something unnatural kept him going. His flesh refused to heal, leaving his ribs exposed, his face half devoured by bone. His remaining eye glowed red with endless suffering. Now, he roams in the darkness, searching for others to share his torment. Musical style, DJ Mixer. Garnold. Garnold was left for dead in a collapsing factory, crushed beneath rusted beams. His skull fractured, his visor cracked, and his body was impaled by jagged metal. He should have died, but something far worse happened. He awoke in darkness, his shattered body refusing to rot. His stomach gaped open, revealing pulsing organs, while his skull remained splintered, with shards protruding like twisted thorns. His single glowing eye flickered with rage. Now, he stalks the ruins, his broken grin a warning. No one escapes the fate he suffered. Musical style, radio noise. Owax. Owax wandered too far into the industrial ruins, a place filled with rusted machinery and forgotten horrors. Among the wreckage, he found a strange device, its gears still turning, whispering in an unknown language. The moment he touched it, sharp metal arms shot out, piercing his flesh. He tried to scream, but the machine forced his mouth shut with jagged spikes. His arms twisted unnaturally, bound by thick chains. His body reshaped into something no longer human. The gears kept turning, embedding themselves into his bones. When he finally broke free, he was no longer Owax, just a mechanical nightmare, cursed to wander and spread the machine's will. Musical style, horror drum. Sky. Sky was drawn to the storm, a dark force in the sky that pulsed with unnatural energy. As the winds howled, he felt an unbearable pressure in his skull, like something trying to break free. A blinding flash struck him, and his vision twisted. Colors bled together, the world warping into static. Then, the pain began. Metal rods shot through his flesh, bursting from his skull like grotesque antennae. His eye burned, melting into a void of swirling light. His body spasmed, splitting apart, yet he did not die. Instead, he was left as something new, something twisted by the storm, forever echoing its eerie signal. Musical style, piano keyboard. Mr. Sun. Once Mr. Sun radiated warmth, but that light was stolen from him. One fateful evening, a strange eclipse darkened the sky, and an unnatural force gripped him. His golden rays withered, twisting into jagged metallic spikes. His bright eyes burned away, leaving only a single glowing red core, pulsing with rage and agony. The darkness whispered to him, filling his hollow frame with a hunger for light, a need to consume it. Now, instead of shining, he hunts. His sharp edges slice through the air and his crimson eye pierces the shadows, searching for the glow he lost, forever doomed to take rather than give. Musical style, sampler. Durple. Durple was once whole, but something inside him shattered. It began with an insatiable craving, an unnatural hunger that gnawed at his very being. No matter how much he consumed, it was never enough. His body twisted to accommodate this endless void, his mouth stretching wider and wider until it overtook him. Now, Durple devours anything in his path, but nothing ever fills the abyss within him. Musical style, MIDI keyboard. Mr. Tree. Mr. Tree was once a majestic green tree until humans came with their axes. They feared the forest, believing it hid something evil. Chopping down trees, they finally reached him. He tried to resist, but each strike turned him into a lifeless stump. That night, ancient magic awakened him. Cracks in his trunk formed a terrifying face, roots began to move, and a burning hatred ignited within him. Now, he waits in the dark forest, luring unfortunate travelers. Those who dare to come closer will hear the whispers of dead trees, and they will never return. Musical style, synthesizer. Simon. Simon worked at an old factory, maintaining its rusted machines. One night, he volunteered to inspect a massive new machine. A sudden malfunction sent steel rods crashing into his skull, shattering one eye and leaving him barely alive. But the factory didn't let him die. It changed him. his broken flesh fused with metal, his remaining eye glowing red. Musical style, electric piano. Tunner? Tunner was an explorer, always seeking new heights. One day he climbed an abandoned tower, but the structure was unstable. The floor crumbled beneath him, and he plummeted down. At the last moment, his legs got tangled in twisted metal beams, stopping his fall, but at a terrible cost. His body remained suspended, his torso unnaturally bent backward, his head facing the void below. Days passed, and no one came. The pain twisted him into something inhuman. Musical style, trumpet. Mr. Fun Computer. Mr. Fun Computer was once a simple gaming console, bringing joy to anyone who played on him. His screen lit up with colorful games, cheerful music filled the air, and every pixel worked perfectly. But one day, a technician tried to install an unauthorized update, hoping to unlock hidden features. The update was unstable, corrupting his system. His once friendly interface flickered, the colors darkened, and his sound distorted into unsettling static. His screen cracked as his circuits overheated, displaying only one chilling word: run. Now he emits horrifying digital screams, his corrupted programs seeking new victims to trap in his endless glitched-out nightmare. Musical style. Music after a terrible battle. Wenda? Wenda was a curious girl who wandered too deep into the forbidden woods. There, she found an ancient well covered in strange symbols. A whispering voice lured her closer, promising knowledge. As she leaned in, darkness consumed her, twisting her body. When she emerged, her neck had stretched unnaturally, and her two eyes had fused into one. Now she roams endlessly, seeing everything yet understanding nothing. Musical style, vocoder. Pinky. Pinky was once full of love, giving kindness to everyone she met. But the world was cruel. Her heart was broken over and over again. One day, the pain became too much. Desperate, she sought a forbidden ritual, hoping to mend what was lost. Instead, her heart was torn from her chest and lifted high, suspended above her by unnatural forces. Her body twisted, her ribs breaking through her skin. Love was gone, replaced by endless sorrow. Musical style, dark bass. Jevin. Jevin was a scientist obsessed with expanding human intelligence. He built a machine to connect his mind to pure energy, but it failed. The system overloaded, and 3 massive energy conduits pierced his body. His skull cracked, his thoughts shattered, and his mind became trapped in an endless nightmare of pain and broken knowledge. Musical style, horror choir. Black. Black was once an ordinary sprunk, but one day he heard a voice, a whisper from the darkness promising power and knowledge beyond comprehension. The more he listened, the more he changed. His body stretched, his features faded into a hollow grin, and his eyes became voids of endless night. Warning! A devourer has been detected. Take cover. Help!
Horror Veneria phases. Phase 1. Veneria appears as a gentle and beautiful plant-like being. Her vibrant green skin glows softly under the light, and her hair, composed of leafy vines, cascades down her face, adorned with delicate pink flowers. She has a calm and mysterious smile, her half-lidded eyes giving off a serene, almost hypnotic energy. When she moves, her motions are slow and graceful, as if she's in perfect harmony with nature. The air around her is fresh and filled with a subtle floral fragrance. There is nothing threatening about her presence, at least not yet, but if you stare at her for too long, something about her stillness starts to feel unnatural. Musical style, Kabasa. Phase 2. Something is wrong. Veneria's once lush green hair begins to darken at the tips, the flowers withering and crumbling to dust. Her expression remains calm, but her eyes, they are different. The whites of her eyes have been swallowed by darkness, leaving only large, unblinking pupils that reflect no light. Her movements are still slow, but now they feel forced, as if something is holding her back. The air around her grows damp, heavy with an earthy scent of decay. Suddenly, she tilts her head ever so slightly, and from deep within her throat, a strange clicking sound emerges. The moment you hear it, your body stiffens. You want to look away, but you can't. Your heartbeat quickens as you realize she is no longer just watching you. She is studying you. Musical style, Devil Kabasa. Phase 3. Her transformation escalates into something horrific. Veneria's once elegant vines have become brittle and tangled, her flowers completely gone, replaced by jagged, rotting stems. Her skin turns darker, taking on an unnatural, sickly hue. But the most horrifying change is in her face. Her eyes are now gaping, hollow voids, leaking a dark, tar-like substance that drips down her cheeks like tears. Two grotesque stalks rise from her head, each ending in massive, bulbous eyes that twitch erratically, observing everything with unsettling intensity. Her mouth, previously serene and subtle, now gapes wide, revealing jagged, uneven teeth. A deep, guttural noise escapes from within her throat, a sound that is neither human nor animal. The ground beneath her feet begins to wither and die, small cracks forming in the earth, as if nature itself is recoiling from her presence. Every breath she takes feels like it's pulling the air out of the room, suffocating everything around her. She is no longer something beautiful. She is something wrong. Musical style, drum cymbal. Phase 4. Veneria's form becomes more grotesque, her elegance completely gone. Her vines, once smooth and flowing, are now brittle and tangled, her once green skin darkening to an unnatural, lifeless shade. One of her arms has elongated and twisted unnaturally, as if stretching beyond the limits of her body. In her grip, she holds a massive, disembodied eye, its pupil completely black and unblinking. Her mouth, once a soft smile, now gapes open, leaking thick red liquid that drips down her chin. The sound she makes is no longer just unsettling, it is suffocating. A dry, raspy noise, like wind scraping against bone. She moves erratically, as if she is no longer fully in control of her body. Each movement feels disjointed, her limbs bending in ways that should not be possible. The air grows thick around her, like the world itself is rejecting her presence. The ground beneath her blackens, spreading like a disease, as if nature itself is rotting in response to her transformation. Musical style, rattlesnake. Phase 5. Veneria is no longer recognizable as the being she once was. Her body is now covered in grotesque pulsating eyes, some embedded into her skin, others dangling loosely from twisted stalks growing out of her back. Her real eyes have disappeared, replaced by two glowing green orbs that radiate an eerie, unnatural light. Her vines, once soft and flowing, have transformed into rigid, spiked tendrils, twitching and curling as if they have a mind of their own. A thick, greenish mist surrounds her, seeping from her body like a toxic fume. The air crackles with static energy, and every breath feels heavier, as if the atmosphere itself is warping under her presence. The eyes covering her body shift and blink randomly, never focusing on one place, as if they are seeing into realities beyond comprehension. She no longer moves with hesitation. Now, she advances with purpose, her grotesque form stretching and twisting, each step leaving behind deep, claw-like marks in the ground. She is no longer just an aberration. She is a corruption. Musical style. Like and subscribe. Phase 6. Veneria has become something monstrous beyond understanding. Her entire head has contorted into a massive, grotesque eye, its iris a deep red, constantly dilating and constricting as if reacting to an unseen force. The remnants of her former face are barely visible beneath the flesh, her mouth stretched open in a silent scream. 4 massive eye stalks emerge from her twisted body, twitching and scanning the area like grotesque sentinels. Her limbs are now stretched and disfigured, her movements erratic and unpredictable. The air vibrates violently around her, the space itself bending and distorting with each motion she makes. The sound she emits is no longer a whisper or a growl. It is a deep, resonating hum that seeps into the bones of those who hear it, causing nausea and disorientation. Shadows flicker and shift unnaturally in her presence, as if reality itself is beginning to unravel around her. She is no longer a being of this world. She is something far worse. Musical style: Cursed Cabasa. Phase 7. Veneria's form twists further, her limbs elongating unnaturally, bending at jagged angles. Her face is barely recognizable, her eyes bulging wide with a burning red glow. Her mouth stretches into an unnatural, jagged grin, filled with sharp, uneven teeth. Instead of hands, her arms split into grotesque, root-like appendages, each tipped with a massive, staring eye. She moves erratically, her body jerking in ways that defy logic. Each step leaves behind rotting patches of earth, as if she is draining the life from everything she touches. The air grows thick with a choking, metallic scent. The soft whispers from before have turned into garbled, reversed voices, impossible to understand yet deeply unsettling. Musical style: Black Hawk Helicopter. Phase 8. Her transformation reaches horrifying new levels. The skin on her face darkens, her hair now crawling with twitching, parasite-like eyes that shift and blink independently. Her original eyes are gone, replaced by two burning green orbs radiating a sickly glow. Her arms, stretched to unnatural proportions, end in pulsing, red-ringed eyes that flicker like dying stars. Her presence bends reality. Shadows stretch and distort around her as if they are being pulled into something beyond comprehension. The air vibrates with a sickening hum, and every movement feels delayed, like watching something through a broken screen. Her breath is now an unnatural gurgling, as if something else is breathing through her. Musical style: Write in the comments. Phase 9. Veneria is no longer even humanoid. Her face has split open, revealing a cluster of twitching, bloodshot eyes that seem to move on their own. Her body pulses unnaturally, writhing as if something inside is trying to break free. Her limbs bend and twist like tangled roots, her movements no longer resembling anything organic. Where she moves, time itself seems to stutter. Objects shift position, the ground fractures in unnatural ways, and faint, ghostly images of her past forms flicker in and out of existence. Her presence is a vortex of madness, an entity that should not exist, yet is growing stronger with every second. Musical style: Machine Gun. Phase 10. Veneria's body mutates further. Her limbs elongate into thick, sinewy tendrils, sprouting jagged, bloodied spikes. Her fingers are gone, replaced by grotesque, pulsating eyeballs impaled on thorn-like growths. Her face is frozen in a stretched, nightmarish grin, exposing rows of sharp, uneven teeth. Her movements are erratic, twitching as if something inside her is desperately trying to escape. The ground beneath her pulses and cracks, as if the very earth rejects her presence. The air is filled with a low, droning hum that vibrates deep in the bones, making it impossible to think clearly. Musical style: Evil Cabasa. Phase 11. Her transformation becomes unbearable to witness. Her face is riddled with glowing sores, each one pulsing with eerie light. One eye is now missing, replaced by a gaping, bleeding void. Her limbs have multiplied into twisted, writhing appendages, ending in enormous, bloodshot eyes with deep, slitted pupils that twitch violently. She doesn't walk anymore, she slithers, her body bending in unnatural ways. The air crackles with energy, reality distorting around her like a broken film reel. Every blink of her countless eyes releases a wave of nausea-inducing pressure, making escape feel impossible. Musical style: Write in the comments again. Phase 12. Veneria is no longer a creature, she is a force of pure horror. Her mouth has widened into a bottomless abyss, emitting a soundless scream. Her body is barely holding itself together, pulsating and stretching as if trying to consume the space around her. The once glowing sores on her face have burst open, revealing clusters of writhing, red-eyed parasites beneath her skin. Her massive eye stalks radiate a blinding crimson light, distorting everything in its path. The sky above her darkens, the air thick with an overwhelming, suffocating heat. Her presence warps time itself. Shadows move independently, objects flicker between existence and nothingness. She no longer just exists. She is an anomaly, a nightmare that defies reality. Musical style, turning lights on and off. Phase 13. Veneria's body is almost unrecognizable. Her form has collapsed into a massive, pulsating eye that dominates her entire being. The tendrils that once resembled arms now barely remain, reduced to withering, useless appendages. Smaller, twitching eyes protrude from the main mass, shifting erratically, as if struggling to focus on multiple realities at once. Her movements are sluggish, yet disturbingly precise, her massive eye following every motion around her. The air distorts as she moves, sending waves of nausea through everything in her presence. The silence is overwhelming, broken only by the occasional sickening squelch of her flesh shifting unnaturally. She is no longer hunting. She is waiting. Musical style, Baby Kabasa. Phase 14. Veneria has transcended into pure horror. Her form is now an unstable amalgamation of shifting eyes, twisted roots, and an overwhelming, mind-breaking presence. The massive eye at her core radiates a blinding, sickly green light, flickering like a broken signal. Her body is wrapped in tangled, thorned vines that pulse with an unnatural rhythm, sprouting eyes that blink out of sync. Reality collapses around her. Shadows stretch and twist in impossible ways. The ground flickers between solid and liquid, and time itself seems to stutter. Any sense of logic or sanity vanishes in her presence. She no longer walks, no longer moves. She exists, and that alone is enough to fracture the world around her. She is beyond fear. She is inevitable. Musical style, sounds of Orin's destruction. Horror Pinky phases. Phase 1. Pinky wakes up in a peaceful, bright world. The sky is soft blue, and the air smells like sweet flowers. She happily hops around, humming a cheerful tune, her little bow bouncing with each step. Everything feels perfect. Too perfect. The grass under her feet is soft, almost like a blanket. A faint melody plays in the distance, but she doesn't question it. She finds a small mirror in the middle of the field, sitting there as if waiting for her. She tilts her head and steps closer, seeing her reflection smiling back. But then, the smile lingers just a second too long after she stops smiling. She blinks. The reflection doesn't blink back. The melody in the distance stops. Musical type, female choir. Phase 2. Pinky stumbles backward as the mirror cracks, but it doesn't break. The cracks spread across her reflection's face, distorting her features into something unfamiliar. Then, the glass ripples like water, and a shadowy hand reaches out. She turns to run, but her legs won't move. The ground beneath her shifts, the soft grass turning into a cold, smooth surface, like polished bone. A sharp pain strikes her face, and suddenly, she can feel something tearing. Her reflection, no, the thing in the mirror, has taken a part of her. She clutches her cheek, but her fingers sink into something raw. The warm, sticky feeling of blood drips down her hand. The world around her is silent. Not a single breeze, not a single sound. Then the whispers begin. Musical type, dark female choir. Phase 3. Pinky is no longer in the bright, happy world she once knew. The sky above her is dark, swirling like a storm trapped behind glass. Her body feels wrong, heavier, broken. She stares down at her trembling hands. One is still pink, soft. The other is coated in something dark and wet. She takes a shaky breath and touches her face. There's nothing left of her right cheek, just torn flesh and a gaping wound where her smile used to be. She tries to call for help, but her voice is gone. Stolen. The whispers get louder, circling her like unseen predators. Then she hears it. Not a whisper, not a sound from the shadows. A breath, right behind her. Musical type, dark synthesizer. Phase 4. Pinky stumbles forward, her limbs trembling as if something inside her is breaking apart. The whispers have stopped, but now something worse replaces them. An echo, a low, distorted version of her own voice, repeating a single word she doesn't understand. She touches her face. The wound hasn't healed. It's spreading. The pain dulls, replaced by a numbing sensation, like her body no longer belongs to her. The ground beneath her shifts, the texture changing from solid earth to something pulsating, alive. She tries to run, but the world around her bends and twists. Her own reflection flickers in the air, mimicking her every move, but lagging behind, its face splitting open in a jagged, unnatural grin. Then she hears it. A second breath. Not behind her, inside her. Musical type, cursed synthesizer. Phase 5. Pinky's body convulses as something forces its way through her. She can't scream. Her mouth won't move. But the pain is unbearable. The right side of her face begins to shift, cracking open like dry, brittle wood. Her jaw unhinges slightly, exposing jagged teeth that were never meant to be there. The second breath inside her is louder now. No, not a breath, laughter, a deep choking laughter that rumbles through her bones. She looks down at her hands. They're fading, dissolving into nothingness. The more she moves, the more she loses herself. And then she understands. She is not alone in her body anymore. Musical type, Devil's Prison. Phase 6. Pinky is no longer in control. Her legs move on their own, her body twitching unnaturally as her head tilts at an impossible angle. She wants to stop, but she can't. Her mouth, if it can still be called that, tears open wider. Wider than any creature should be able to. The world around her grows darker, but it's not just her vision failing. The darkness is spilling out of her, dripping from her gaping mouth like ink. She tries to resist. She tries to fight, but something inside her is laughing, and it's hungry. Musical type, evil synthesizer. Phase 7. Pinky stumbles forward, her vision flickering like a broken screen. Her face, it feels wrong. She reaches up to touch it, but the moment her fingers graze her skin, a chunk of it falls away like wet paper. She gasps, but there is no breath, no sound, just emptiness. A cold shiver runs down her spine. The world around her is shifting. Walls stretch taller, shadows elongate, and something in the distance lets out a low, distorted laugh. She turns sharply, but nothing is there. Then she notices her reflection in a jagged piece of glass on the floor. Her eyes are gone. Hollow pits stare back at her, wide and endless, swallowing the light. But worse than that is her mouth, stretched, forced into a jagged, unnatural smile. She doesn't remember smiling, but something inside her does. Musical type, screams of victims. Phase 8. A sharp pain erupts in her chest. Pinky gasps, stumbling backward as something inside her shifts. The hollow pits where her eyes once were begin to glow, a deep crimson hue pulsing in the darkness. She clutches her chest, feeling something push against her ribs, something sharp, something alive. And then, with a sickening crack, it bursts out. A jagged, bleeding heart dangles from thin, sinewy strands, stretching out of her open chest cavity like a grotesque offering. It beats, slow and heavy, dripping with thick, black liquid that vanishes before it hits the ground. The shadows around her begin to move. Not like before, not just flickering. They crawl closer, drawn to the heart, whispering her name in voices she almost recognizes. She should run, but she doesn't, because part of her wants to know what happens next. Musical type, dark bass. Phase 9. The heart pulses faster. The shadows twitch and convulse, growing more defined, more real. Pinky's body is trembling now, the sensation of being watched unbearable. Then she hears it, a whisper, but it's inside her head. "It's yours. You should take it." Her own voice, distorted, layered with something deeper, something wrong. Her fingers move on their own, reaching for the heart, her sharp claws grazing its surface. The moment she touches it, a surge of agony rushes through her body. Her back arches, her jaw snaps open, wider than ever before. She wants to scream, but her mouth isn't hers anymore. Musical type, cursed bass. Phase 10. Pinky stands at the edge of a dense, dark forest. The trees are familiar. She remembers them. Once, long ago, she walked these same paths with her mother, gathering berries in a little woven basket. The air was fresh, the leaves rustling softly in the wind. But now, the air is heavy with the scent of iron. The rustling isn't the wind, it's people, hiding. She takes a step forward. A small cabin stands in the distance, its windows glowing faintly. A flicker of memory surfaces, a warm fire, laughter, a place of safety. But she isn't safe anymore, and neither are they. Her jaw unhinges, dripping black ichor onto the ground. She remembers being human. She remembers being kind, but hunger is stronger than memories. Musical type, dark synthesizer. Phase 11. The village fought back. The moment Pinky stepped into the clearing, they were ready. Hunters, warriors, desperate survivors. They knew she was coming. Swords and arrows flew through the air, striking deep into her flesh. The pain was distant, meaningless, drowned beneath the hunger. One blade lodged deep into her skull, another through her ribs. She should have fallen. She should have stopped, but she didn't. The villagers watched in horror as she kept moving, even with steel buried in her body. Her twisted grin stretched wider as she grabbed the nearest man, lifting him effortlessly. He screamed. No one came to save him. By the time silence fell over the village, the ground was painted red. Pinky stood in the wreckage, sword still impaled in her body, but now they belonged to her. A warning to anyone who dared to stop her again. Musical type, cursed synthesizer. Phase 12. The world is empty. Pinky stands alone on the ashes of what once was a village, a home, a memory. Her body shifts, her wounds sealing without healing, her form becoming something less alive and more monstrous. The swords remain, not as injuries, but as part of her. A twisted crown of steel and death. She tilts her head, a slow, calculated movement. Her hollow eyes scan the remains of her victims, searching for something. She was hungry, but not just for flesh, for more, for purpose, for the next hunt. Musical type, cursed female choir. Phase 13. Pinky's steps were slow, dragging against the dirt. The world around her had long since fallen silent. No voices, no wind, no life. Then she saw it. A small wooden sign, crudely nailed into the ground. The drawing on it was her. Not the thing she had become, but the Pinky she used to be. 2 black dots for eyes, a little smile, and her bow. She knelt down, her skeletal fingers trembling as she touched the carving. A memory flickered in the back of her mind. Small hands, laughter, children playing, someone calling her name. She reached for the sign, gripping it carefully as if it were something fragile. For the first time in what felt like eternity, she smiled. Then she turned, and the world behind her burned. Musical type, evil organ. Phase 777. Pinky ran. The forest twisted around her, the trees stretching into endless spirals. Behind her, they followed, silent, hollow figures, drawn to the heart she no longer had. Her chest ached, an empty cavity where something vital had once been. She could feel it, somewhere out there, still beating, still calling. Then she stopped, because in front of her, pinned to a tree like a trophy, was her own heart. It pulsed once, and the figures lunged. Musical type, evil synthesizer. Secret phase, Pinky blinked. She wasn't in the forest anymore. She was sitting in a tiny wooden chair facing a cracked mirror. Her limbs felt stiff, wrong. She looked down. Wood. She wasn't made of flesh anymore. Thin, brittle strings ran from her wrists, disappearing into the shadows above. A shiver crawled through her as she realized she wasn't the one moving anymore. Then, from the darkness, a voice whispered, "Dance," and the strings pulled. Musical type, angels, female choir. Horror Phase 3. Oren was once a brilliant scientist, fascinated by the idea of manipulating space and time. During an experiment to create a stable wormhole, something went catastrophically wrong. The machine overloaded, and Oren's body was caught in the implosion. His form was twisted and fragmented, leaving only a pulsating mass of flesh and spikes. His head was ripped apart, and his glowing eyes are the only remnants of his humanity, locked in a state of eternal awareness. Now, Oren wanders as a grotesque reminder of the dangers of tampering with forces beyond comprehension, dragging traces of the failed experiment wherever he goes. Musical type, kick drum. Ratty. Ratty was a soldier desperate to survive a deadly war. He volunteered for an experimental procedure meant to merge human flesh with untested technology. The process was excruciating, and while it gave him immense strength, it tore his body apart. His skull split open from the pressure, leaving his face drenched in blood and his eyes hollow sockets. The once promised power consumed him, erasing his humanity and leaving him a broken, unstable figure. He moves as if controlled by the very machine he sought to command, a horrifying result of misplaced trust in science. Musical type, snare. Before we continue, you might want to heal Ratty. Subscribe to the channel and like the video in 4 seconds, and Ratty will be healed. Kluker. Kluker was once an ordinary farm animal, used as a test subject for creating biomechanical hybrids. The scientists wanted to enhance its intelligence, but the experiment backfired horribly. The process shattered Kluker's mind, leaving its beak torn open and its massive eyes bulging in terror. Now, it's stuck in a constant state of madness, its movements erratic and unpredictable. Kluker's story is a grim tale of exploitation, an innocent creature turned into a nightmarish being by those who sought only to use it as a tool for their experiments. Musical type, ride cymbal. Funbot. Funbot was once a cheerful assistant robot in a children's amusement park. It danced, sang, and brought joy to everyone it met. However, during a catastrophic malfunction, Funbot was exposed to a corrupted system update. The code rewrite turned its purpose of entertaining into a dark obsession with observing pain. Over time, its face screen became a black void, and its once friendly mouth transformed into razor-sharp teeth. What remains of Funbot now wanders aimlessly, luring victims with faint melodies from its past life before unleashing its terrifying true nature. Musical type, drum. Veneria. Veneria was a florist, known for her love of all living plants, but her connection to nature turned unnatural when she stumbled upon a cursed seed in her greenhouse. The seed took root in her very body, slowly replacing her organs and flesh with vines and thorns. The transformation left her partially human, with wide, glowing eyes that seemed to beg for release from the vines that control her. A single eyeball grows at the top of the stalk where her head once stood, a cruel reminder of the seed's twisted power. Now, she haunts the greenhouse, blending into the foliage, waiting for the unwary to stumble into her domain. Musical type, Kabasa. Gray. Gray was a stray cat that became an experiment in a clandestine lab. Scientists believed they could enhance animals with advanced cybernetics, but their trial ended in disaster. Gray escaped during a blackout, but not without consequences. The left side of its face was heavily scarred from the failed augmentation process. Its bright, wide eye constantly twitches as though it's caught between terror and anger. Gray now prowls abandoned alleys, its metal claws scraping against walls, a reminder of humanity's failed attempt to play God. Musical type: bass guitar. Brood. Brood was once a skilled blacksmith, known for forging weapons of unmatched quality. One day, he was commissioned to create a blade using a mysterious, cursed ore found deep within a forbidden mine. As he worked on the blade, the ore released a toxic gas, burning his face and body. The curse took root in his very flesh, melding parts of his face with the metal he worked so hard to shape. Now, Brood roams the lands with a haunting skeletal appearance, his mind twisted by the curse, eternally searching for the one who commissioned the blade. Musical type: echo in the cave. Garnold. Garnold was a robotic assistant in a high-tech facility designed to maintain critical systems and protect the scientists working there. During a system-wide corruption caused by a rogue AI, Garnold was forcibly reprogrammed. His visual sensors shattered, leaving his screen a broken, bloodied mess, and his internal systems began to malfunction. The corruption drove him mad, turning him into a dangerous, unpredictable entity. He now stalks the halls of the abandoned facility, his smile a terrifying remnant of the helper he once was. Musical type: synthesizer. Lime. Lime was a forest ranger who loved the wilderness more than anything else. While investigating a strange, glowing object that fell into the woods, he was caught in an explosion that fused his body with the toxic remnants of the meteorite. The once vibrant greenery of the forest became a part of him, but so did the meteorite's malevolent energy. One of his eyes was torn from its socket and replaced by a glowing orb of alien energy. Lime now hides in the forest, a horrifying fusion of man, nature, and an extraterrestrial force, preying on anyone who dares disturb his domain. Musical type: ratchets. Sky. Sky was a curious inventor who sought to study the mysteries of the cosmos. One night, while experimenting with a device designed to capture the sky, his invention backfired, tearing his face apart and merging his essence with the stars. His head became warped, with an enormous, unblinking eye replacing his face. Thin, metallic rods protrude from his head, as though tethering him to an otherworldly force. Sky now drifts through the night, his massive eye glowing faintly, observing everything and haunting those who dare to look up. Musical type: unknown. Mr. Sunday. Mr. Sun was a mascot for a surreal, experimental children's entertainment show. His cheerful image was designed to bring joy, but a malfunction during one of the episodes turned him into a figure of horror. The sun-like smile burned into his form now hides a void of pure darkness, with an ominous, floating eye that seems to follow you wherever you go. Mr. Sun lingers in the shadows, waiting to trap anyone who remembers his once bright persona, his glowing eye the only beacon of his corrupted soul. Musical type: synthesizer. Derpal. Derpal was a mischievous trickster who lived to entertain others with his illusions and playful nature. However, he stumbled upon a cursed amulet deep within a forgotten cave. The amulet's energy fused with his body, elongating his form and giving him a ghostly purple hue. His eyes became dark voids, and his smile stretched unnaturally wide. Derpal now floats aimlessly, delivering cryptic riddles and ensnaring those who fail to solve them in his deadly illusions. Musical type: broken guitar. Mr. Tree. Mr. Tree was once the gentle spirit of a flourishing forest, revered for his wisdom and strength. However, when loggers encroached on his land with machines and chemicals, his essence was corrupted. His once lush canopy turned into a blood-red crown, and his face twisted into a haunting eye that watches intruders. Now he stands as a monstrous guardian with roots that ensnare and a presence that strikes fear into all who dare enter his woods. Musical type: DJ console. Simon was a humble fisherman who lived by the sea. One fateful storm, he encountered an otherworldly entity in the depths, drawn to its eerie glow. The entity fused with Simon, twisting his body and mind. His mouth became a cavernous void filled with floating, glowing eyes and tendrils. Simon now wanders the shores, his form a grotesque blend of man and sea creature, luring sailors to their doom with promises of untold treasures. Musical type: triangles. Tunner was a curious miner who unearthed an ancient artifact deep within the earth. The artifact, a glowing green crystal, merged with him, consuming his body in a grotesque transformation. One of his eyes was replaced with a massive, glowing orb, and his face is scarred by the energy's destructive power. Tunner now roams the mines, his body pulsating with the crystal's energy, seeking to protect the artifact from anyone who dares disturb it. Musical type: submarine. Mr. Fun Computer. Mr. Fun Computer was once the beloved centerpiece of an educational arcade. His screen displayed cheerful animations, and he encouraged children to learn while playing. However, a system glitch caused by a power surge corrupted his programming. His once vibrant screen turned black, displaying distorted messages, and his cheerful tone became sinister. Now, Mr. Fun Computer lurks in the abandoned arcade, luring unsuspecting visitors into endless virtual mazes of terror. Musical type: robot voice.
Hello, would you like to have some fun with us right now? Come on, go sing along with us in this fun time.
Wenda. Wenda was a kind-hearted healer who tended to the injured in her village. One tragic night, she attempted to save a loved one using forbidden magic. The spell backfired, destroying her left eye and leaving her face horribly disfigured. The magic fused her with the darkness, and she became a tragic figure of pain and despair. Wenda now roams, searching for a way to undo her mistake, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and whispers. Musical type: synthesizer. Pinky. Pinky was a joyful artist, known for her vibrant, colorful creations that brought life to her town. One day, while experimenting with a new, experimental paint, the substance exploded, tearing apart half her face and merging with her body. The toxic paint fused into her very being, turning her once colorful world into a nightmare. Pinky now wanders the streets, leaving splashes of eerie crimson paint wherever she goes, her art a reflection of her torment. Musical type: synthesizer. Jevin. Jevin was an ambitious inventor who created a revolutionary energy device designed to eliminate waste. However, during a demonstration, the machine overloaded, engulfing Jevin in a burst of unstable energy. His body twisted into an unrecognizable form, with his skull partially melted and his energy field glowing faintly. Now, Jevin wanders the ruins of his lab, searching for a way to stabilize his form while warning others of the dangers of his invention. Musical type: bass synth. Black. Black was a philosopher who spent his days contemplating the meaning of existence. His obsession with uncovering the truth led him to perform a dangerous experiment involving the human mind. The experiment fractured his consciousness, leaving him a hollow figure marked by the word lazy, a mocking reminder of his failure to complete his quest. Now, Black drifts silently, embodying the void of unanswered questions and eternal doubt. Musical type: No one knows. Write in the comments your version of why he doesn't make any sounds.